Okay. Let me close Slack for a start. To read the Slack messages. Right. So, for those who missed the intro, my name is Thair. I'm the co-founder of DevOpsGuys. We're a DevOps consultancy based in Cardiff in Wales in the United Kingdom, which is still part of the EU for the time being until the referendum next month, and we don't really know what's going to happen, but I'm pretty sure we'll stay. I personally want to stay because I like being able to come to conferences like this without having to get a visa and everything. For those of you that are not aware of regional accents in the UK, my accent is from South Wales, and by South Wales I mean New South Wales, which is in Australia. So I apologise in advance if my accent's a bit hard. If anybody doesn't understand something I'm saying, just please ask me to repeat it. Okay, so I was asked to keynote this talk, and I didn't really want to give a pure technical talk because I thought, well, that might not be relevant for everybody in the audience, and I really wanted to try and give you some tools that's going to enable you to go back to your businesses and get some budget to make your DevOps project happen, okay? Because DevOps can't be successful unless it's bottom-up engineering like you guys and girls, who are, passionate about the technology, you want to make change happen, but it's also got to come from the top down. Your management has to see benefit of giving you the time and the budget to do the kind of projects that you want to do. So, it's pretty clear that DevOps is a hugely hot topic. You've just got to look at the Google trends. Every CIO, CTO magazine is talking about DevOps. They're pushing this message. I mean, I go to breakfast briefings, I give breakfast briefings, we did one in partnership with HP the other day. We've got big multinational companies that are coming to us and saying, how can you help us get our DevOps message out? And in the UK, in London alone, in the last month, there's been 4 DevOps conferences, of various sizes, from community-led ones like the ones we run, right up to, next month there is the DevOps Enterprise Summit, which is coming over. So there's just a huge amount of buzz and activity, and everybody's out there saying, I want to do DevOps, I want to be DevOps. And the question is, what does DevOps really mean to people, and why is it important? It's just everywhere you look, people are saying DevOps, DevOps, DevOps. So for me, when I'm thinking about DevOps, I really like to put it in the context of the digital changes that are going on in organizations. And what we have is we have digital innovation, we have digital disruption, and then we have digital transformation. So all of you guys out there, generating all these great new ideas, and that's the innovation side of things. And then that leads to digital disruption, because you come up with a new idea and you take it out of the market and you disrupt the marketplace. Probably the best example of that is certainly in Uber, I think it is in the UK and in the US, is Uber. The taxi industry is dead. It just doesn't know it yet. It is literally stone dead. In Seattle, on every street corner, when I was there for a conference 2 months ago, there is somebody standing there holding their mobile phone, waiting for their Uber to turn up. You just didn't see anybody getting in a yellow cab anymore, And unless they respond, which is the transformation part, unless large organisations and enterprises respond, they're not going to be able to continue to compete. Another great example of this would be TransferWise and World Remit, who are doing stuff in foreign exchange and forex transfers in the financial services market. Again, they're just eating away. They've been able to create billion-dollar companies in a very short period of time because they're taking all these great ideas and bringing them to market, totally disrupting it. And now you're getting all of these large enterprise organizations, the big banks like Barclays and Credit Suisse and whatever, are trying to say, how can we change? How can we take what the community's been doing out there and all the lessons that you guys have learned about how to operate at speed and how to be quicker and how to be more agile and how to get your ideas out there, and how do we apply that to a large organization to transform to be more agile? And they suck at it. They are really, really bad. They want to do a 12-month project plan for their digital transformation. And they want to use waterfall processes to try and change things. They want to try and change the entire organisation at once. Yeah, I've got 5,000 people, across operations and developments, and I've got 50 Scrum teams or 100 Scrum teams, and we're going to make them all DevOps by the end of the year. And you're going, yeah, but you're missing the whole message. The whole message of DevOps is to start small and iterate and grow and learn. So, it is a massive challenge for these organisations to try and deal with the innovation, the disruption, and the transformation that they need to respond. So, when we're talking about innovation, there's a lot of theory around innovation, and I think one of the two things that I like is this idea of primary and secondary innovation. So, primary innovation, I'll read the definition, is the creation, invention, or chance discovery of completely new ideas, methods, or devices. Okay? So primary innovation is that, wow, this is something completely new, something that you've never seen before, and a lot of times that's, that happens in universities, in research parks, somebody will invent the laser, and then 20 years later, somebody will think, oh, we can use this laser to read stuff off a disk and turn it into a storage device. So, primary innovation, a lot of people have said that innovation is dead because they think that primary innovation is getting harder. And it is, because you need, large resources to come up with that truly fundamentally unique idea. Okay? It costs a lot of money to find the Higgs boson, for example. It costs a lot of money to come up with these new, to shrink the dies for a CPU chip down to the next level. And that's where the second part is, which is called secondary innovation. And what secondary innovation is, the new and deliberate application or modification of existing ideas, methods, or devices. And secondary innovation is where you guys come in, because you're out there and you're combining these ideas in new and exciting ways. And I'm going to come on to that in a lot more detail in a minute. So Henry Ford has this great quote. Henry Ford, everyone sort of quotes him as being this great inventor. And he's saying himself, I didn't really invent anything. Or at best I did secondary invention. I simply assembled the discoveries of other people. I stood on the shoulders of giants in order to create new things. And a lot of the times, as I said, it looks inevitable when it comes around. Wow, Uber, an app on my phone, and I can get a taxi, and it uses GPS, and it knows where I am, and it tells me where it is, and it does the payment online. I mean, I'd like to think that pretty much most of you in this room could write and develop an Uber app. I mean, who honestly thinks that the Uber app is anything particularly fancy or amazing or incredible or novel? They just assembled some stuff together, and they were first to market, and they were in the right place at the right time, and they had lots of magic happen back in because they were in San Francisco. I'm not bitter about that or anything. So I think for me, what we start to talk about when we think about all of this innovation and secondary innovation and all of these ideas, we're talking about combining all these ideas. There's this concept of combinatorial innovation. If anybody that has a mathematics background, we kind of go, bingo, combinatorial. I'm thinking about exponents. I'm thinking about multi-dimensional spaces. I'm thinking about how all this stuff is going to come together, and how many different ways can I combine these ideas. So I really struggled with a way to try and come up to get this idea across, or get this message across, and how we can visualize this. And the best way I could kind of come up with was the old Rubik's Cube. So Rubik's Cube, what have you got? You've got 6 colours, 6 faces, and 9, 6 9s, 54 squares. Okay? Does anybody know off the top of their head how many combinations there are in a Rubik's Cube? Anybody want to make a guess? Sorry? Zillions? Zillions? Well, I don't know whether 43 quintillion is more or less than a zillion, but we'll go with 43 quintillion. So the correct answer is that. That's how many combinations there are in a Rubik's Cube. And they had IBM and had to use a supercomputer. No, sorry, Google had to use a supercomputer to calculate all the possible combinations. So when you think about all of the tools that we have at our disposal, or think about all of the JavaScript frameworks you've got, think about all the programming languages you've got, think about all of the cloud service providers you've got, think about all the databases you've got, think about all the middleware frameworks you've got, think about all the operating system choices you've got, think about all of those different things and combine together. Each one of those is at right angles to the other in some kind of mega multi-dimensional idea space. And we're going to talk about that idea space. So try and keep this mental image of all of those factors that you could be combining together to create new ideas. And eventually I'll get on to DevOps, by the way. There is some DevOps coming in this talk, I'll let you know. So before we start, I'd really like to run a video for you for a couple of minutes.
I'm Sakib Sheikh. I lost my sight when I was 7, and shortly after that I went to a school for the blind, and that's where I was introduced to talking computers, and that really opened up a whole new world of opportunities. I joined Microsoft 10 years ago as a software engineer. I love making things which improve people's lives. And one of the things I've always dreamt of since I was at university was this idea of something that could tell you at any moment what's going on around you.
I think it's a man jumping in the air doing a trick on a skateboard.
I teamed up with like-minded engineers to make an app which lets you know who and what is around you. It's based on top of the Microsoft Intelligence APIs, which makes it so much easier to make this kind of thing. The app runs on smartphones, but also on the Pivot Head smart glasses. When you're talking to a bigger group, sometimes you can talk and there's no response, and you think, is everyone listening really well, or are they half asleep? And you never know.
Bit like the audience.
I see two faces. 40-year-old man with a beard looking surprised. 20-year-old woman looking happy.
The app can describe the general age and gender of the people around me and what their emotions are, which is incredible. One of the things that's most useful about the app is the ability to read out text.
Hello, good afternoon. Here's your menu.
Great, thank you. I can use the app on my phone to take a picture of the menu, and it's going to guide me on how to take that correct photo.
Move camera to the bottom right and away from the document.
And then it'll recognize the text. Read me the headings.
I see appetizers, salads, paninis, pizzas, pastas.
Years ago, this was science fiction. I never thought it would be something that you could actually do, but artificial intelligence is improving at an ever faster rate, and I'm really excited to see where we can take this. As engineers, we're always standing on the shoulders of giants, building on top of what went before, and in this case, we've taken years of research from Microsoft Research to pull this off.
I think it's a young girl throwing an orange frisbee in the park.
For me, it's about taking that far-off dream and building it one step at a time. I think this is just the beginning.
Thanks. So, who thought that was cool? I genuinely, when I first saw that video, I was completely and utterly blown away. He talks about this stuff, happening in his lifetime. I actually spoke to him after the conference. He's a little bit younger than me. I mean, for me, mobile phones or something, that when I was a child, I was reading, Robert Heinlein's science fiction at the age of 13, and there's a scene in one of his early books where a guy pulls out this little portable phone and rings his mum before he flies up to the space station, and I'm going, yeah, we'll never have phones that small because they won't have they won't be able to have enough watts to generate the signal, and they won't have the battery life, and blah, blah, blah. And here I am, more power than a space station. So, the technology is just mind-blowing. I mean, it's incredible. And for me, the scene, there's two bits that really stood out. That was the one that really stood out for me in the video. You think about what this is done. So it's taken a photo, it's analysed it, it's seen the face, it's assigned a gender to that face, it's assigned made a guess at the age of that face, and it's detected the emotion of that face. And I just think that's absolutely freaking amazing. I mean, that is like mind-blowing. But here's the really, really mind-blowing bit. The really, really mind-blowing bit is any of you can go out and build most of that application right now. Pivot head smart glasses are available off the shelf. They're a commodity item. And all the APIs are available from part of the Cortana intelligence suite in Azure. And there are equivalent other cloud services. So, I think that's the bit that really amazes me. This is the message of this combinatorial innovation that I want to try and get across, is that these innovations, these building blocks are out there for you guys to combine in new and exciting and interesting ways to make things which absolutely blow people's minds. So the challenge then becomes, we've got this multi-dimensional hypercube of all of these tools and technologies and APIs and services and clouds and stuff. And, many more, combinations than the 43 quintillion that we had with the, just with the Rubik's Cube, with its 6 colors, 6 spaces, and 54 squares. So the question then becomes, how do we mine the idea space, this virtual reality matrix of ideas, to find that combination of ideas that customers want and we can effectively do at the right price to deliver value, so we all get venture capital investment and get rich, or we get slightly rich and the VCs get really, really rich. And the answer to that, finally we get to the DevOps part of the talk. The answer to that is DevOps. And the reason that DevOps is the answer to that is because DevOps gives you the tools and technologies that you need to iterate around this. Have an idea, test it, see what happens. Have an idea, test it, see what happens. Trial it out in the marketplace. It gives you the technologies to accelerate around the software development lifecycle in a way that wasn't possible. If you're stuck in doing waterfall projects that take forever, it's 6 to 12 months to go around the whole cycle. You can only try one idea a year. But if you can go around that every 2 weeks and get a new feature out there, push it out into the marketplace, see whether the customers like it, do a canary release, only to maybe some part of your customers, maybe some beta testers. Do you like that? Yeah, I do. And I've got all my, Dynatrace monitoring there. I'm getting all my feedback from all my systems. I'm incorporating my metrics. I'm making some really good decisions, and I'm getting better and better and better. So the companies that get really, really, really good at DevOps will be able to iterate faster and faster and faster. So the companies that can mine the idea space faster, find the ideas that generate value, are the companies that are going to succeed in the future. And the companies that are stuck in going around this loop once every 6 months, once every 12 months, are going to fail. So that's the challenge to you guys, is how do I think about all these ideas and work out how I'm going to go through? And I said the answer to that is DevOps. I think, who's ever heard of this phrase before? SMAC? Anyone? Yeah? Social, mobile, analytics, cloud. So this is an idea that's being pushed to all your CIOs and CTOs by Gartner. IDC call it the third platform for digital transformation. Stick with SMAC for a second. And the idea is that these are the 4 core areas of innovation, or the 4 core forces that are sort of driving the change. And that's the message that's being pushed to, say, all the CIOs and CTOs of these, big companies. So we're pushing that message. That message is being pushed out. You've got to have a social strategy, a mobile strategy. You've got to get better at analytics and big data, and you've got to move to the cloud. And then, as you sort of see here, they start to bring in other stuff, the natural informations, cognitive systems, the Internet of Things, robotic 3D printing. Again, more factors of bringing into this combinatorial innovation. But for me, when I look at the social, mobile, and analytics, big data, and it's built there on top of the cloud, I think that is missing something. And what it's missing is that DevOps layer. Because you are not going to be able to innovate and come up with new ideas and deliver new services unless you've got a really effective mechanism for collaboration between the business, the developers, the people who are going to the operations, the operators who run the systems, the security people, the compliance people, the auditors. Everybody's got to be able to collaborate. And for me, that's what DevOps is. DevOps, no matter, is not just a set of technologies. DevOps is the engine room that is driving that digital transformation inside the organization. In fact, driving digital innovation, digital disruption, and digital transformation, depending upon which part of the digital lifecycle that you're in. So the whole idea is we start going from slow and we move forward into full speed ahead. So in terms of how you're going to implement DevOps inside your organization and how you're going to facilitate this DevOps transformation, I guess the question for me is you start to look at this. Who's heard of the CALMS model, DevOps, before? Did you have that? CALMS? Okay. All right, I'm going to be here for a while then. Okay, so culture, automation, lean metrics, and sharing. Okay, John Willis and Damon Edwards, and there was somebody else, but it was mainly Bochgalupo and Damon, came up with this model. Originally it was CAMS, C-A-M-S, and then Damon added in the L to make it CALMS. And pretty much any DevOps conference you'll go to in the UK or in the US, somebody will mention this during their talk. Are the other speakers in the room? Are any of the other speakers going to mention this in their talk today? Yeah, we've got one. Good. I'm not the only one. No, was it 2? No? Okay. So the idea of CALMS is trying to help people to give a framework to organise some of the things that you need to do in order to move DevOps beyond just this silo of just being, Puppet and Chef and Ansible and time tracing, whatever. And a lot of people we talk about, again, literally, we ran a DevOps conference on Tuesday, and everybody was pushing this message: how important is culture, how important automation is. But culture, gets mentioned a lot. We talk a lot about sharing. We talk about metrics and being metrics driven. And I like the CALMS model, but I think there's a few problems with it. And the main problem I don't like is that we say, in DevOps, you must have a culture. Right, well, yogurt's got culture, Danone and Actimel, little smoothie drinks have got culture. It doesn't say anything about the type of culture that you should have in your organization to foster and deliver DevOps. And that's what I think is one of the, is one of the weaknesses. And it's metrics. Well, okay, I've got to gather lots of metrics, but it doesn't say why I'm gathering the metrics and the mindset behind gathering those metrics. So we've been trying to play around with some new models, and the one we've kind of come up with is called PACE, which is basically product-centric, automated, still got to have automated, collaborative, and experimental. And for me, and I'm happy to take as much feedback as I can get, because this is the first conference where this has actually ever been presented. So you guys are all trying it out on you guys and see what you think. And I'd love to get some feedback. But what we're sort of trying to do is describe adjectives to talk about culture and talk about the organisation and talk about the mindset that we want DevOps-focused organisations to have. So what do we mean by being product-centric? Well, the biggest thing about being product-centric is to try and look at the whole life cycle of the product from inception to retirement. Your job as a developer in particular doesn't doesn't finish when the build is gone green and I've done my check-in and it's triggered your CI build and the build's completed and yay, I've passed my unit tests and my job as a developer is done. No, it's not. Your job is not done until that product does not run in production anymore. That's when your job finishes. And you've got to work with operations people like me. My background is infrastructure and operations and architecture. And you've got to work with people like me to make sure that that thing is easy to run in production. I know when it's working correctly and I know when it's not working correctly. I know when customers are using it and I know what to do when it breaks. And more importantly, I give you a pager and you get out of bed and you tell me what to do when it breaks. In fact, I don't even get out of bed, you just get out of bed. That's my ultimate goal. I get to sleep more. So, from a managerial point of view, being product-centric is understanding your product portfolio. Most organisations I talked to, and they sort of said, well, we did this exercise with one organisation, and we mapped out the products that they had in production and the technologies and stuff they were running on. We talked to all the dev teams about the skills they had in-house, and it turns out that they were running 7 technologies. So whether normally I wouldn't call a technology a product for the sake of this example, I will. They had 7 systems running in production, 7 technologies that nobody in operations knew how to support and nobody in development knew how to develop. Because contractors, whatever, people coming in. So I'm saying you've got 7 systems running in production that you're saying, if it breaks and something goes wrong, the dev guys, the ops guys don't really know how to respond. Yes. And if you want to add a new feature or fix a security bug or do a flaw, you don't have any developers who can make a change to the code. Yes. Do you think that is mapping out your product portfolio really well? No. Okay? So that's what I was saying. You've got to be continually thinking about your services and your products as products and think about the whole life cycle. You've got to be constantly looking and reprioritizing the product backlog. And your teams have to feel ownership for the product that they're responsible for. They have to feel empowered to manage that all throughout things. There's none of this handing it over to operations. It's an ops problem now. No, it's everybody's problem because you as a team, you work together to own that product. And it's got to be automated. The only way that we can go around and around that cycle quickly, rapidly, effectively, cost effectively. I mean, if you're a massive enterprise organization and you ship one product a year, maybe you can afford to have 12 entire product teams to ship 12 products, but most organizations would like to try and iterate faster and get better value out of the team. So there's all of these areas of automation. We tend to use Ansible for configuration management. We like the HashiCorp tools. For Terraform for provisioning. Console for service discovery. There's so many tools now. And the answer is it doesn't really matter which one you use as long as it meets your use case and meets your needs, and as long as you can integrate them all together. But the key thing is to try and grab that level of automation. You can't do it without it. And the second thing is really about being collaborative. The days of existing in this silo. I mean, there's a guy named Lucis, John, and he describes this as, you've got to give a SHIT about the person sitting in the desk next to you. If you sit there and go, well, I'm a database administrator, and as long as my database is up and as long as it's responding on the right port, well, I don't really care. That's my job. I'm a database administrator. But the application doesn't work. Well, I don't care, but the database is fine. I don't care. I don't care that the customers can't log in. I don't care that it's running slow. I don't care that I did a re-index of the database in the middle of the day and now the SAN is completely maxed out and none of the other applications work because it's trying to crunch terabytes of data to do some re-indexing job. I don't care. I'm just a DBA. Sorry, are there any DBAs in the room? I'll just check on picking on DBAs. So, you've got to care about the other people in your team, and you've got to be thinking, how can I make their life easier? How do I, make sure that I'm not making things hard for them. There's a practice in physical manufacturing, which is called DFM, Design for Manufacture. Has anybody ever heard of that term before? Engineering? DFM? So I've got one guy down the back. And the whole goal of design for manufacture is when I'm in the design phase, when I'm still doing stuff in a computer, how do I make it easier for somebody to take this part, this dashboard, this steering wheel, this pedal, or whatever it may be, I'm assembling a car, and put it together, minimize the number of screws, minimize the number of connectors, make it modular, make it easy for me to put new parts in, replace parts out. I was in London the other day, and I was a taxi driver, and he was in one of the new Mercedes black cabs, and he was saying in order to replace a light bulb, and he said cabbies have to replace the bulbs in their brakes very frequently. They had to take half the bumper off and then take half a light assembly out and then pull it in and then make it. So he said, in order to replace a light bulb, I have to go and put the car in for an hour and a half in order just to replace a light bulb, which is a pretty shit piece of design from the point of view of the person who's trying to operate the service. See, in the old taxis, I lifted up a panel and I just reached my hand around and I undid something and I put the new plug in it. Then 5 minutes later, I was back. That's the element of this sort of design for manufacture type idea. So there's design for manufacture to make it easy to assemble and build, and then there's this design for operational, designing for maintenance to make sure that it's easy to swap in new bits. And for the people with a software development background, a lot of this is about the modularity of design. It's about loose coupling. It's about leveraging these ideas like microservices. So when we're thinking about this DevOps culture, for me, the DevOps culture is about being a collaborative culture. And for me, for here, it's also about striving to learn and teach. All of you guys are here now because you want to learn new stuff. And for me, what DevOps is also about is when you guys go back to your organization, how do you take all of the stuff that you've learned today? How good are the notes that you're going to take in your sessions today? Are you going to go and collect and collate all of the presentations that are there today and put them on Dropbox or somewhere where everybody else in your organizations can find them? Are you going to put together, and when I came back from the Microsoft Build conference, came back to my company and I did a clip show of, these were all the best presentations I went to, and I downloaded all of the decks and I compiled them into I compiled highlights into one big deck and said, these are the 5 or 6 talks I really think you should go and watch, and you really should read this deck because there's some really good ideas. So that's a challenge for you in a collaborative culture. You should be striving to learn constantly, but you should also be striving to teach constantly. You should be going out there and saying, how can I make everybody else around me better? How can I make their life easier? How can I take my knowledge and put it into somebody else's head so that we can move faster together? And I'm not saying that we're trying to make everybody a generalist and everybody knows everything, but if you know a little bit more about databases and a little bit more about infrastructure and a little bit more about how the Java virtual machine works, or how HA proxy works, or how TCP/IP works, that's going to make the conversations that you have with the people in your team richer and more valuable. So again, my challenge is for you guys: how do you go out there and constantly learn, try and strive to constantly teach as well? And the last one is E for experimental. So again, coming back to this idea space, and that with DevOps I'm going to be iterating around this idea space. I've got to be embracing the idea of the scientific method. I've got to have a hypothesis, I've got to design an experiment, I've got to do the experiment, gather data, and analyze the results. Have anybody ever heard the term HIPPO before? A couple of people. So it's quite a common phrase. So HIPPO stands for the highest placed person's opinion. So when you go into a meeting room and all the engineers are there and they're saying, yep, we really think we should do this. I have seen this firsthand in a very large telecommunications company where literally all the engineers are in the room saying we really shouldn't launch this. It's not ready. It was a performance issue. It didn't have the capacity. Yeah, so we launched. And we launched because the boss, the most highly placed person in the room, his opinion was far more than us, and that was basically because his bonus was worth far, far, far more than all of our salaries put together, and he needed to launch this project by the end of the year, otherwise he didn't get his bonus. Is that a good way to run a business? No. So DevOps, because we're going to be metrics and data driven, and we're going to be experimental, and we're going to be focusing on the data and focusing on the analysis, and we've got all these great tools now out there in the idea space to collect all this data, analyze all this data, starting to actually now to plug all that data into machine learning, so it will start to give us some guidance on where the problems are and what the decisions that we should be making. That's another whole area of innovation that's happening at the moment. And most of the major sort of APM vendors are sticking their toe in the water of artificial intelligence and machine learning to help do this kind of predictive analytics. We're trying to move towards no more hippos, and you say, nah, facts don't support it. Nah, customers don't want it. We've launched this great feature, nobody's using it. Right, take it out. That's just technical debt sitting there. Get rid of it. Nobody's using it. Fine. Slim down my code base, make it easier for me to maintain it. Try and be driven by the metrics and the data. And again, we've got these great tools. So, death to hippos. Probably finished a bit early, but that's okay. So just to wrap up, we've got this idea of digital innovation, digital disruption, digital transformation, and DevOps is the engine room of change that's going to help us win and succeed in that environment. And that's me done. Thank you very much.